as we're now back. Armstrong, Sims, Hayden Bumpus here, Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, and David Smoak. So we'll have Grayson Grunhafer at 3:45 focusing on Texas State and Baylor, and then also at 4 o'clock, Sam Kahn from The Athletic as well. But when Joseph Duarte, what he said to us, now he's also, first of all, we thought there were 4 teams, and there are. And now he's saying Houston, it feels like they're in. UCF, Houston, Cincinnati, and Brigham Young.
I like it. I'm fine with that. I think that was what we said. I was gone Memphis over Houston just for the FedEx money, but maybe they felt like that wasn't going to be as much as Tillman for. Look, maybe Tillman for Tita money is more than FedEx money. I don't know. The guy got a ton of money to throw at things. Maybe Landry's is the new sponsor of the Big 12 championship game. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it's the 4 that we've been talking about, so I like it. Like I said earlier, this process has gone a lot faster than I expected it to, although I didn't, necessarily think they were going to have the time to, have 2 years to sort through this. So, I just kind of trying to wrap my head around it and waiting to see what the next move is, which I guess will probably come next week or very well could come next week. With official invitations and then official acceptances, what have you. But, it's a good group. It's as interesting probably as you could get. Thanks, based on the fact that so many other teams are locked into grant of rights agreements. So to have to go outside of that A5 and find some teams that could – fit the bill and make your league interesting. I think they found 4 teams that'll make the league really interesting, not only in football but in basketball certainly and in other sports as well. So, again, they didn't have a lot of options, but I think they got the right ones of the ones they did have.
All right, so your thoughts and feedback. We will have eventually I'm getting some of the texts that are coming through. My internet is off right now, but we'll work on that. Our text line is 254-339-1122. And some of you are commenting on what we have discussed as well. Let me try to go over some of them. This is from Raymond. We get the 6 best teams for now. Wait a little longer until Oklahoma and Texas are gone, and then see if the Big 12 can snag other teams. Keeping an eye on us, and maybe we wouldn't mind playing in that conference that's looking pretty good as far as whom others might look at the Big 12 if they reestablish and get the expansion going. From the 3-2-1, by the way, UCF does sustain stadium, by the way. Heard that on the other call. 3 January 1st bowl games in 8 years. In fact, one of them they beat Baylor. Gus Malzahn, AAC brings some possibilities. Big 12 can sell it. These 4 talked about these programs. Be bold. It's what you make of it. Control the narrative.
Yeah, and that's what I've been saying. Is hey, be the aggressive one. Shape your own identity. Don't let ESPN or, the other media or college football fans, paint you into a corner. I think, you can do something fresh and new, and you got to be a little bit innovative. You got to be a little bit, like I said, on the attack, and I think that's something that they're finally displaying, and, it's creating some buzz, and, it's not going to be the SEC or the ACC or whatever, but shoot, man, if these teams come in here and one of them, does well, has a great run, wins a championship, something like that, big bowl game, I mean, that's all you got to do is just stack wins, right? It's what coaches talk about, stacking wins every day. I mean, that's what the Big 12's got to try and do to the best of their ability. And you do that long enough and you do it right, then, that's going to pay off for you eventually. But, definitely a departure from the norm for the Big 12 as far as what we're seeing these last couple of days, and it's refreshing.
Yeah, it is. It is refreshing. And I'll tell you right now, and I've reiterated this, if you didn't hear it in the first segment, we apologize. When I was on the phone with somebody who was giving me some information and has been through things like this before, I said, it's good to hear the conference has a pulse. He stopped me and said, no, it's more than a pulse. This thing is further down the road than you might realize. A pulse means that you're alive and your heart is beating. This is more than that, is what he wanted to stress to me. And obviously, if they've got 4 teams they've singled out, then it is no question about that.
And going back to Raymond, I mean, there's one team there in Memphis that you can say, yeah, maybe they should have been in the mix or whatever. To your point about adding 6 teams, I mean, I don't know who that 6th team would be. I guess it would be like an SMU maybe, or Colorado State or whatever. But I mean, they can do 4 now and do exactly what you're still saying, go and add later on down the line. So I would rather them, go with 4 that they feel really strongly about than try to stretch it and maybe bring in a 6th that they're not as confident about. Because, again, this is all about money, and you don't want to, you don't want to thin things out and not bring in somebody that's going to have a little bit of value and earn their keep at the table. So I think by just going with the smaller, there was thoughts that they might just get 2 right there for a little while.
There were thoughts they may not even be alive.
They might not get anybody or even be in existence. So yeah, I think to bring in these 4, it's probably the best 4 you could have done. Of course, there's an argument for maybe 1 or 2 other schools, but those 5th and 6th schools could potentially be added down the line rather than all at once.
From the 512, and I'm getting I'm able to get some of the text line brought to you by Riverbend Liquor and Wine on my phone. Good job by the Big 12 Expansion Committee. If all of this works out, they selected 4 teams, keep football, basketball, performance of the conference relevant nationally. Brigham Young's got a 22,000-seat arena that is phenomenal. It also removed the best remaining pieces off the board from the other conferences for when they want to expand.
Yeah, that's kind of not exactly what I was saying, but kind of what I was thinking as well, is that, there's not like anybody else out there that you're like, oh, we've got to go grab them right now. I don't think that if you don't grab Memphis right this second, that the SEC or the ACC or the Pac-12 are going to be like, oh, all right, we're going to go grab them now. Because if they wanted to, they'd have already done it. So, I'm with you on that.
From the 954, I love this one. Because there's been some negative and there's been some gloom and there's also been maybes and there's been some trash talking. Luis from Jacksonville, Florida, a UCF alum. Get those Waco bars and hotels ready because we are coming. Go Knights, charge on.
Well, hey, I think people in Waco and Baylor fans will love the trip to Orlando when that happens. That's certainly one of the, actually they join and they're like one of the better road trips already. Now, I don't know what the game day scene is like and all that, but in terms of just a city with some attractions and whatnot. So I know there will be a lot of Baylor and Iowa State and Texas Tech fans that enjoy the trip to Universal Studios, when they go to watch the Knights. But I tell you, Waco's building a lot of freaking hotels. So I think that they are well underway, whether they realized it or not at the time. That was mostly due to Magnolia and Chip and Joanna, but that'll come in handy for sure with some new blood coming to McLean Stadium.
Yeah, it's like someone that went into a makeover. It's kind of like what Chip and Joanna do with homes, and of course now lots of people do that. What the city of Waco has been through, and how what I mean by that is who they are. It's like even our setup here, which you can see. Armstrong's got the camera. You mainly see us or some of us and the stadium, but there are, for example, straight ahead. This is a massive Amazon distribution building. I mean, when it went up, it looked like it was going to be as big as a stadium, and that's just one. But you see buildings everywhere where there used to not be any. And on University Parks, there are 3 and 4. There are hotels that are going up along MLK, and they already have what seemed like about 4 or 5 times that of when I arrived in 2010. So that again. The businesses are thriving despite COVID, and the structures are going up despite COVID, and it's all because, yes, a couple of businesses are bringing people in, and it's not just because of sports, athletics, or Baylor athletics.
Yeah, well, nothing's been stopped. The good news for Waco is that even with COVID, nothing's been stopped. It maybe have been delayed a little bit, which is, look, try to get barbecue sauce that you like now or lumber or something like that. Everything's been delayed. But as far as that, we're still continuing to grow, and we're still going to grow at a great pace, one that, years ago I think people never even thought possible for this city. So, bring it in and look, this is maybe an easier city to convince your wife or girlfriend to come to on a road trip, to come to a UCF or BYU game or whatever because of Fixer Upper. So
yeah, the same thing I was saying with UCF. You got the theme park attractions. If it was Waco, it would be Magnolia, and that's right across the street basically from McLean Stadium and Baylor's campus. So I'm sure that will be a buzzing. It already is. they don't need college football fans to come in to give them a crowd. They have one, but they will certainly appreciate it, and that will be the little attraction for sure.
The person I talked to earlier today and has given me a lot of the insight. For right now, it's just these 4.
Okay.
They wanted to do 8, but Texas and Oklahoma still might be here for a while, creating scheduling issues. So as soon as they know those 2 are gone, it is likely to be a part 2.
Wow. Okay. Well, okay. So you've got the 4, and those are the 4 that make the most sense. But yeah, that does make it very interesting because of all the teams you mentioned earlier. Colorado State, the SMU one. I'm not going to get down with that. I'm just not. I'm not going to be on board with that one. But if it makes sense to them, then it makes sense to them. They're the ones that have to make the decisions. But that is interesting, and I wonder why that is. I would love to know, and I'm sure we'll eventually find out, of what they talked about to where a 2-phase realignment and adding 8 teams and making a 16-team conference. Like, are they thinking this is going to be another super conference? Because it's not. I mean, it's not on paper. It's not a super conference. It would be size-wise, but not, or at least for me, the way I think of it, I think you got to have some blue bloods in a super conference. And there's not one in this conference other than Kansas basketball, right? Without Oklahoma and Texas.
In football terms is how I'm looking at it.
There are football or basketball.
No,
is there
none
another
of them,
blue blood?
No.
So, I don't consider it a super conference from that standpoint, but from a size standpoint, it would be.
They're not going to do this if they don't think they're going to be a Power 5 autonomy type of.
They're also not going to do it if they don't think they can make the money that they need to make.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I would love to know when that time comes is what made them decide that rather than just going full-blown 16 and bringing in teams that aren't blue bloods and don't necessarily have a ton of money attached to them, where that comes into play.
Right now, the 4.
Yeah.
When, because they will be leaving Texas and Oklahoma, then there's the opportunity for what could be part 2. We got to take a break, come back with Grayson Grudhafer, Sikkim365.com. Grayson, of course, he'll talk with us and give us his feedback about what's happening with Texas State Baylor tomorrow, among some other things as well, including realignment in the Big 12. This is Sikkim 365 Radio.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac. They got a lot of great deals going on over at Richard Carr.